The billionaire's fiancé smiled for the cameras, then noticed three little faces pressed against the kitchen door. Three black girls, hungry, the maid's daughters. She didn't call for help. Instead, she walked to the porcelain dog bowl, scooped up the leftover kibble, and dropped it at their feet. "If you want to eat," she whispered venomously, "eat like the dog." What she didn't know was that her billionaire was watching everything, and the truth about those three little girls would completely destroy him and expose the monster he had almost married. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel and let's get started. Who let these children in here? Victoria's voice cut through the kitchen like a knife. This is not a playground for staff kids. Three identical little girls with brown curls and bright blue eyes stood frozen in place. The middle one stepped forward. "We're sorry, ma'am. We're just hungry," she said quietly. Victoria's perfect red lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She opened a cabinet and pulled out a can. "Here's some food for you. Dog food. That's all little rats like you deserve in this house." The sun shone brightly on the sprawling Beverly Hills mansion of Charles Montgomery. At 45 years old, Charles had achieved what most could only dream of: a tech company worth billions, respect from the business world, and a beautiful fiancée. Today was his annual charity event supporting children's education, and the guest list included everyone who mattered in Los Angeles County. Charles adjusted his tie in the mirror. He stood tall at 6 feet 2 inches, his salt and pepper hair perfectly styled, his gray eyes focused and intense. "You look perfect," said Victoria Blackwood as she entered the room. At 38, Victoria was a vision in her designer dress, her blonde hair falling in elegant waves. She wrapped her arms around Charles. "Ready to impress everyone?" "The goal is to raise money for children who need it," Charles replied. Victoria laughed. "Of course, darling. But it doesn't hurt that everyone will be talking about how wonderful we are for hosting." Charles smiled but didn't respond. After 15 years of building his security software company, he had everything money could buy. Everything except a family. Downstairs, the mansion buzzed with activity as staff prepared for 200 guests. Among them was Diana Johnson, a 35-year-old single mother who worked as a maid. Today, Diana faced a serious problem. "Please stay right here," Diana told her three identical 8-year-old daughters as she settled them in the small staff room at the back of the mansion. "I brought coloring books and snacks. I'll check on you whenever I can." "But Mom, we're bored already," complained Zara, the most outspoken of the triplets. "I know, sweetie. My regular babysitter canceled at the last minute. I had no choice but to bring you with me. Mr. Montgomery would fire me if he knew you were here." Diana straightened her uniform and looked at her daughters with worry. Zoe, and Zara sat side by side on a small couch, their matching blue eyes looking up at her. They were her world, and she worked 3 jobs to give them everything they needed. "I promise to bring you more food in a little while. Just stay quiet. Okay?" The girls nodded, and Diana hurried out to begin her duties. 2 hours into the event, the mansion filled with celebrities, politicians, and business leaders. Charles moved through the crowd, shaking hands and accepting praise for his generosity. "Charles, darling," Victoria called, waving from across the room where she chatted with a famous actress. "Come meet Jessica." Charles excused himself from a conversation with the mayor and made his way toward his fiancée. Meanwhile, in the staff room, the triplets had grown restless. "I'm hungry," Zoe said, the one most interested in computers and science. "The snacks Mom left are gone." "We should wait," cautioned Zoe, the artistic and sensitive one. "Or we could find the kitchen ourselves," suggested Zara boldly. "This house is huge. There must be tons of food somewhere." After a brief debate, hunger won. The girls slipped out of the room and into the hallway. They stared in wonder at the massive paintings, crystal chandeliers, and marble floors. "This place is amazing," whispered Zoe. Look at that painting. Focus, Zara reminded them. We need to find food. Following the distant sounds of dishes and the smell of food, they made their way through the mansion. After several wrong turns, they found themselves peeking around a corner into a massive kitchen where staff bustled about preparing fancy appetizers. Wow, breathed Zoe. Look at all that food! Just as they were about to step into the kitchen, the door on the opposite side opened. Victoria Blackwood walked in, her phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, I'll call you back. I need to fix my makeup," she said before hanging up. The triplets tried to back away, but it was too late. Victoria spotted them and her eyes narrowed. "Who let these children in here?" Victoria's voice cut through the kitchen. "This is not a playground for staff kids." The girls stood frozen in place. Zoe, the bravest of the three, stepped forward. "We're sorry, ma'am." "We're just hungry," she said quietly. Victoria's perfect red lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She opened a cabinet and pulled out a can. "Here's some food for you, dog food. That's all little rats like you deserve in this house." Tears filled Zoe's eyes. Zara grabbed her sister's hands, ready to pull them away. Unknown to everyone in the room, Charles had approached the kitchen from the hallway where the girls had entered. He stood in the doorway, witnessing the entire exchange. Something about the girls' bright blue eyes seemed strangely familiar to him. But more shocking was Victoria's cruelty. Charles watched as the triplets backed away and disappeared down the hallway, then stepped away before Victoria could see him. His mind raced with confusion and disappointment. The woman he was about to marry had just shown a side of herself he'd never seen before. The remainder of the charity event passed in a blur for Charles. He gave his speech about the importance of education for all children, but his thoughts kept returning to the scene in the kitchen and those three little girls with bright blue eyes, eyes that somehow reminded him of his own. That evening, after the last guests had departed, Charles found Victoria in his study, reviewing plans for their upcoming engagement party. "We need to talk," Charles said firmly. "About what, darling?" Victoria looked up, smiling. "I saw you in the kitchen today with those children." Victoria's smile faded. "Oh, that. Some staff member brought her kids to work, completely unprofessional." "How could you treat children that way?" Charles demanded. "Those kids shouldn't have been there. This is why staff shouldn't bring their problems to work." Victoria shrugged, showing no remorse. Charles stared at her, seeing a coldness he had somehow missed during their 2-year relationship. "They're children, Victoria. Hungry children. Don't be so dramatic. I was just ensuring they know their place. You're too soft sometimes, Charles." She turned back to her papers. "Now, about the engagement party." "I think you should go home. I need some time to think," Charles interrupted. After Victoria left, Charles sat alone in his study. He couldn't forget those 3 identical faces, those familiar blue eyes. He picked up his phone and called his assistant. "Marcus, I need you to do something first thing tomorrow morning." "Of course, Mr. Montgomery." "What do you need?" "Find everything you can about Diana Johnson, one of our housekeeping staff. There's something about her daughters I need to understand." As Charles hung up, he had no idea that his simple request would uncover a truth that would change his life forever. The next morning, Charles sat at his desk, unable to focus on work. The image of those 3 identical girls with bright blue eyes kept appearing in his mind. His intercom buzzed. "Mr. Montgomery, I have that information you requested," Marcus said, his voice sounding strained. "Come in," Charles replied. Marcus Wilson entered the office holding a folder. At 32, Marcus had been Charles's assistant for 7 years. He looked unusually serious. "You need to see what I found," Marcus said, placing the folder on the desk. Charles opened it and found employee records for Diana Johnson alongside printouts of old photos. His heart stopped when he saw a college photo labeled Emily Pearson, Stanford University. "This can't be," Charles whispered. "Diana Johnson was born Emily Pearson," Marcus confirmed. "She legally changed her name 9 years ago." The timing matches perfectly with when she started working here 3 years ago. And sir, those triplets were born 8 years ago. Charles stared at a photo of himself and Emily at a Stanford party. Emily Pearson had been his serious girlfriend during his final year at Stanford. She had disappeared suddenly, telling him only that she was pregnant, and then vanishing completely. "The girls have your eyes," Marcus said quietly. "I noticed it when I saw them yesterday." Charles stood up and walked to the window. "Emily told me she was pregnant right before she disappeared. I tried to find her, but she was just gone." "There's something else," Marcus added. "Her emergency contact form lists 3 dependents, Zoe, and Zara Johnson, all born on April 15th, 8 years ago." Charles did the math in his head. 9 months after Emily told him she was pregnant. His hands gripped the windowsill tightly. "I need to speak with her. Privately." Diana arrived at work early, certain she would be fired after yesterday's incident. She had spent the night comforting her daughters, who were still upset by the encounter with Miss Blackwood. As she changed into her uniform in the staff room, another maid entered. "Diana, Mr. Montgomery wants to see you in his office," she said. Diana's stomach tightened. Did he say why? No, but he said to come right away. Diana smoothed her uniform and walked the long hallway to Charles's office, rehearsing her apology for bringing her daughters to work. She knocked softly on the door. "Come in," Charles called. Diana entered, keeping her eyes lowered respectfully. "You wanted to see me, Mr. Montgomery?" Charles stood behind his desk, looking at her differently than he ever had before. For years, he had barely noticed her as she cleaned his home. Now he couldn't look away. "Please sit down," he said, gesturing to a chair. Diana sat nervously on the edge of the seat. Charles closed his office door. "I need to ask you something important, Diana. Or should I call you Emily?" Diana's face went pale. She gripped the armrests of her chair. "How did you—" Charles placed the old college photo on the desk between them. "Emily Pearson. We dated for almost 2 years at Stanford." Diana stared at the photo, seeing her younger self with her arm around Charles, both smiling in front of the university library. "I never thought you would recognize me," she said quietly. "I've changed so much." "I didn't, not until I saw your daughters yesterday." Charles leaned forward. "Those girls, they're mine, aren't they?" Diana looked directly into his eyes for the first time, the same bright blue eyes that her daughters had inherited. "Yes," she whispered. Charles sat down heavily. "Why did you disappear? Why didn't you tell me?" Diana's eyes filled with tears. "I tried to tell you. I called you so many times. I wrote letters. But your father—" "My father?" "He intercepted everything. He told me you wanted nothing to do with me or the baby. He offered me money to disappear." Diana wiped her eyes. "I refused the money, but I left anyway. I couldn't bear the rejection." Charles stared at her in disbelief. "My father never told me anything. He never gave me your messages. He said you were focused on your future and that a pregnant girlfriend would ruin everything you'd worked for." Diana's voice hardened slightly. "When I found out I was having triplets, I was even more determined to make it on my own. I legally changed my name, moved to Los Angeles, and started over." Charles ran his hands through his hair. "My father died 5 years ago. I never knew. I would never have abandoned you, or my children." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of 9 years of misunderstanding between them. "What are they like?" Charles finally asked. Diana's expression softened. "They're amazing. Zoe is our little scientist, always asking questions, taking things apart to see how they work. Zoe is artistic and sensitive, and Zara is our brave one. She stands up for her sisters and isn't afraid of anything." "Except Victoria, apparently," Charles said grimly. "I'm sorry about yesterday," Diana said quickly. "My babysitter canceled at the last minute and I had nowhere to leave them. I told them to stay in the staff room, but Don't apologize, Charles interrupted. I'm glad it happened. Otherwise, I might never have known. He paused. Does anyone else know who you really are? Diana shook her head. No one. I've been very careful. Neither of them noticed Victoria watching through the glass wall of Charles's office, her eyes narrowing with suspicion. After Diana left, Charles sat alone, trying to process everything. He had 3 daughters, 3 8-year-old girls who had been living just miles from him, completely unknown to him. His phone rang. It was Victoria. Darling, what was that all about? Why were you meeting with the maid? It was about yesterday's incident, Charles replied vaguely. I hope you fired her. Bringing children to work is completely unprofessional. Charles gripped the phone tighter. I didn't fire her, Victoria. Those children were hungry. Charles, really? You're too soft sometimes. Anyway, I'm thinking about our engagement party next month. The florist needs final approval on… Can we talk about this later? I have some urgent business to handle. After hanging up, Charles opened his desk drawer and pulled out an old photo album. He found a picture of himself as a child, standing next to his father. The same blue eyes that he had passed to his daughters stared back at him. How could you do this? He whispered to his father's image. Victoria sat in her car outside Charles's office building, dialing a number on her phone. Walker Investigations? This is Victoria Blackwood. I need your services immediately. I want everything you can find on Diana Johnson, one of my fiancé's household staff. Something's going on, and I need to know what it is. She hung up and stared at Charles's office window. She had never seen him look at anyone the way he had looked at that maid today. Diana returned home that evening to her small apartment in East Los Angeles. The triplets were with Mrs. Rodriguez, their elderly neighbor who watched them after school. Mommy! They called in unison as she entered Mrs. Rodriguez's apartment. Diana hugged them tightly, looking at their faces, Charles's eyes staring back at her from 3 identical faces. Did you get fired because of us? Zoe asked worriedly. No, sweetheart. Everything is fine. Later, after tucking the girls into bed in their small shared bedroom, Diana sat on the edge of the bed stroking Zoe's hair. Girls, what would you think about meeting someone special soon? Someone who's been wanting to meet you for a long time? Who? Zara asked suspiciously. Diana took a deep breath. Everything is about to change, she whispered, not yet ready to tell them the full truth. Outside her apartment, a man sat in a parked car, taking photographs. Victoria's investigation had already begun. Diana's phone rang early the next morning. She checked the caller ID and her heart raced when she saw Montgomery Estate. Hello? She answered, stepping into the bathroom so the girls wouldn't hear. Diana, it's Charles. His voice sounded different, warmer than it had ever been during her 3 years of employment. I've been up all night thinking about everything. Me too, Diana admitted. I'd like to meet them properly, Charles said. The girls, I mean, but I don't want to overwhelm them. Diana leaned against the bathroom door. They don't know anything yet. I haven't told them who you are. I understand. That's why I have an idea. What if we create a special educational program for staff children? It would give me a chance to meet them without immediately revealing everything. Diana considered this. They would enjoy that. They're very bright. This Saturday, I could prepare some activities in my home office. Okay, Diana agreed cautiously, but I'll be there the entire time. After hanging up, Diana looked at herself in the mirror. How would she prepare her daughters to meet their father without telling them he was their father? Charles called his lawyer immediately after speaking with Diana. I need to arrange discrete DNA testing, he told Richard Wells, his attorney of 15 years. May I ask why? Richard asked. I've discovered I might be the father of triplet girls. 8-year-olds. A pause. That's unexpected. Are we talking about a potential paternity claim? No. Their mother isn't asking for anything. She's actually worked in my house for 3 years without ever telling me. That's unusual, Richard said. I'll arrange the testing through a private lab. It can be done with hair samples if you can obtain them without causing alarm. And I want to understand my legal rights and responsibilities, regardless of what she's asking for. Of course. But Charles, proceed cautiously. This could become complicated very quickly. On Saturday morning, Charles paced around his home office. He had spent hours arranging everything. Educational games, science kits, art supplies, books. He wanted to be prepared for whatever his daughters might enjoy. Marcus knocked on the door. "They're here, sir." Charles took a deep breath. "Send them in." Diana entered first, followed by 3 identical girls in matching blue dresses, their brown curls bouncing as they looked around curiously. "Girls," Diana said, "this is Mr. Montgomery. He's starting a special Saturday program for children of people who work here." "Hello," Charles said, his voice slightly unsteady. "I'm very happy to meet you all." "I'm Zoe," said the first girl, stepping forward confidently. "These are my sisters Zoe and Zara." Charles nodded, studying their faces, his eyes, Emily's nose, his mother's chin. "What will we be doing?" asked Zoe shyly. Charles smiled. "I've prepared several activities. You can choose whatever interests you." The girls looked at the room with wide eyes. Zoe immediately spotted the computer in the corner. "Is that a coding program?" she asked, pointing to the screen. Charles nodded, surprised. "Yes, it's a simple programming game for children. Do you like computers?" "She loves them," Diana said. "She's been teaching herself coding from library books." Just like you at her age, Charles thought. While Zoe headed straight for the computer, Zoe gravitated toward the art supplies. "May I draw something?" she asked quietly. "Of course," Charles replied. Zara, meanwhile, walked around the room examining everything carefully, as if assessing the situation. Finally, she turned to Charles. "Why are you doing this program?" she asked directly. "You never did it before." Charles glanced at Diana, then back to Zara. "Sometimes we don't realize what we've been missing until we see it clearly." While the girls worked on their chosen activities, Charles discreetly collected hair samples, from a brush Zoe used from the back of the chair where Zoe sat, and from Zara's sweater when she took it off. The morning passed quickly. Charles was amazed at how Zoe understood technology intuitively, just as he had as a child. Zoe's drawing showed remarkable talent for an 8-year-old, and Zara's sharp questions revealed an analytical mind that missed nothing. When it was time to leave, Charles knelt down to their level. "Would you like to come back next Saturday?" he asked. All 3 nodded enthusiastically. After they left, Charles stood by the window watching them get into Diana's old car. He felt a connection he'd never experienced before, a pull toward 3 little lives that were part of him. 3 days later, Charles received an envelope from the lab. He opened it with shaking hands. Probability of paternity, 99.9%. He stared at the paper, though he had never really doubted the results. They were his daughters. Victoria paced in her penthouse apartment, waiting for her private investigator. "This better be important," she said when Peter Walker arrived. "You said you found something significant." Walker placed several files on her glass coffee table. "Diana Johnson is not who she claims to be." Victoria sat down. "Explain." "Her real name is Emily Pearson. She changed it legally 9 years ago." Walker opened a file containing old photos. She was a student at Stanford when she knew Charles. They dated for nearly 2 years. Victoria picked up a photo of a younger Charles with his arm around a pretty brunette. "Emily Pearson," she repeated. "Why would she change her name and then work for Charles? That makes no sense." "There's more," Walker continued. "She disappeared from Stanford after telling friends she was pregnant. 9 months later, she gave birth to triplet girls." Victoria's perfectly manicured nails dug into the photo. "When were the girls born?" "April 15th, 8 years ago." Victoria calculated quickly. "And when did Charles and this Emily break up?" "July, 9 years ago." Victoria stood up and walked to the window. Those little brats are his, aren't they? Walker nodded. The timing matches perfectly. And having seen them myself, they have his eyes. Victoria's mind raced. This explained Charles's sudden interest in Diana and her daughters. But did he know yet? Was that what the private meeting in his office had been about? Find out if Charles knows they're his, Victoria ordered. And I want to know why she never told him. There has to be more to this story. The following Saturday, Charles waited eagerly for Diana and the girls to arrive. He had spent the week reorganizing his schedule to make time for them, canceling meetings and delegating tasks that normally he would have handled personally. This time, he had prepared more personalized activities. For Zoe, advanced coding games. For Zoe, professional art supplies. For Zara, puzzles and strategy games. "You've gone to a lot of trouble," Diana commented when they arrived. "It's no trouble," Charles replied, watching as the girls excitedly explored the room. While the girls were busy with their activities, Charles pulled Diana aside. "I got the test results," he whispered. "Not that I had any doubts." Diana nodded. "When do you want to tell them?" "I've been talking with a child psychologist about the best approach. She recommends we wait a little longer, let them get comfortable with me first." "They already talk about you all week," Diana admitted. "They've never had much male influence in their lives." As they talked, Zara approached them. "Are you two keeping secrets?" she asked suspiciously. Charles smiled. "Just grown-up talk." Zara looked at him carefully. "My sisters really like you. Zoe says you're the smartest adult she's ever met, and Zoe loves the special paints you got her." "What about you?" Charles asked gently. Zara shrugged. "I'm still deciding." Charles respected her honesty. "That's fair." That evening, Victoria waited in Charles's mansion for him to return. When he finally walked in, he looked happier than she had seen him in months. "Where have you been all day?" she asked. "I thought we were having lunch with the Wilsons." Charles froze. "Was that today? I completely forgot." "You've been forgetting a lot lately," Victoria said, studying his face. "What's going on with you, Charles?" "Nothing. I've just been busy with a new project." "Does this project involve Diana Johnson?" Victoria asked directly. Charles looked at her sharply. "Why would you ask that?" "Because you've been different ever since you had that meeting with her. And now you're starting some program for staff children? That's not like you at all." Charles sighed. "People change, Victoria." "Not overnight they don't," she replied. "I'm your fiancé. Don't I deserve to know what's happening?" Charles sat down heavily on the couch. "You're right. There is something I need to tell you." Victoria held her breath, waiting to see if he would confess what she already knew. "I've been rethinking a lot of things lately," Charles said carefully. "About what I want in life. What really matters." "And what have you decided?" Victoria asked coldly. "I'm not sure yet," Charles admitted. "But I need some time to figure it out." Victoria stood up, her face tight with controlled anger. "Take all the time you need. But remember, our engagement party is in 3 weeks. 200 people are expecting us to announce our wedding date." After Victoria left, Charles remained on the couch, staring at the engagement photo of them that sat on the mantel. Victoria looked perfect in it, beautiful, polished, the ideal partner for a billionaire CEO. But for the first time, he wondered if perfect was what he really wanted or needed. He pulled out his phone and looked at the photo he had secretly taken that morning. His 3 daughters laughing together over a game. It was slightly blurry, captured in a moment of pure joy. Imperfect, real, his. Charles placed his phone back in his pocket and headed to his home office. He needed to make changes in his life to accommodate his daughters. First, he had to adjust his work schedule. He picked up the phone and called his executive team. "I need to schedule an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning at 9, he told his chief operating officer. "Is everything okay?" the COO asked. Yes, I just need to discuss some changes to my role at the company. The next day, Charles stood before his executive team in the conference room of Montgomery Tech headquarters in downtown Los Angeles. Thank you all for coming, Charles began. Effective immediately, I will be working reduced hours. I've neglected my personal life for too long, and certain circumstances require more of my attention now. The team exchanged confused glances. Charles Montgomery was known for working 16-hour days and expecting the same from his executives. I'll need all of you to take on more responsibility, Charles continued. I have complete faith in your abilities. After the meeting, his chief financial officer, David Chen, followed Charles to his office. This is very sudden, David said. The board might have concerns. Charles nodded. I understand, but some things are more important than quarterly reports, David. Does this have something to do with your engagement to Victoria? No, Charles replied. It's something else. Something personal. The following Saturday, Charles nervously checked his watch. Diana and the girls would arrive in 10 minutes for their third educational session. This time, he had something special planned. When they arrived, the girls rushed into his office with growing familiarity. Mr. Montgomery, Zoe called excitedly. I finished that coding game you gave me. It was too easy. Charles laughed. I have something more challenging for you today. Zoe approached shyly, holding out a drawing. I made this for you. Charles took the artwork carefully. It showed 4 people holding hands in front of a house, 3 small figures and 1 tall one. His throat tightened with emotion. It's beautiful, Zoe. Thank you. Zara stood back, watching the interaction. Though still cautious, she was warming up to him. I have a surprise for all of you today, Charles announced. With your mother's permission, I thought we might go on a field trip. The girl's eyes widened. Where are we going? Zara asked. To the Science Museum. They have a new exhibit I think Zoe will love, an art workshop for Zoe, and an explorer challenge that might interest you, Zara. Diana looked concerned. Public places might be complicated. People know who you are. Charles nodded. I've arranged for a private tour before regular opening hours. The day at the museum was magical. Charles watched Zoe's face light up at the robotics display, helped Zoe create a beautiful piece in the art workshop, and cheered as Zara conquered the Explorer Challenge in record time. Diana observed quietly, seeing a side of Charles she never knew existed, patient, attentive, genuinely interested in her daughter's excitement. You're good with them, she told him as they watched the girls examine a dinosaur skeleton. It comes naturally to you. I never knew I wanted this, Charles admitted quietly. Time with them is already the best part of my week. While Charles was at the museum with Diana and the triplets, Victoria was meeting again with her private investigator in her apartment. I have what you asked for, Peter Walker said, handing Victoria a thick file. Victoria opened it to find detailed information about Diana Johnson's past as Emily Pearson, including her relationship with Charles at Stanford. Did you discover why she never told him about the children? Victoria asked. Walker nodded. According to my sources, she did try to tell him. She called many times and sent letters, but it seems Charles's father intercepted everything. Victoria leaned forward. The old man kept this from Charles? Apparently, he told Emily that Charles wanted nothing to do with her or the baby. He even offered her money to disappear. Victoria smiled slightly. So Charles didn't know until recently. That's why he's suddenly so interested in them. She flipped through more papers. What's this? Information about Diana's current situation. She works 3 jobs to support the girls. No serious relationship since Charles. She's completely devoted to those children. Victoria closed the file. What about legal status? Immigration? Criminal history? There must be something we can use. Walker shifted uncomfortably. She's a U.S. citizen, no criminal record, but what? There was a brief period after she changed her name when some of her documentation was inconsistent. Nothing illegal, but it could be twisted to look problematic. Victoria tapped her manicured nails on the file. That might be useful. Thank you, Peter. You've been very thorough. The following week, Charles attended Zoe's science competition at her elementary school in East Los Angeles. He sat next to Diana in the school auditorium, feeling strange in his expensive suit among working-class parents. "You didn't have to come," Diana whispered. "I know you're busy." "I wouldn't miss it," Charles replied. "Besides, I rearranged my entire work schedule to have time for things like this." When Zoe's project, a computer program that identified different plants, won first place, Charles cheered loudly. "That's my daughter," he thought proudly, before realizing he still had no right to claim her publicly. His phone vibrated. Victoria was calling. He silenced it without answering. 2 days later, Charles attended Zoe's art show. Her watercolor painting of 3 identical butterflies was displayed prominently. "The butterflies are me and my sisters," Zoe explained quietly. "We look the same, but we're all different too." Charles knelt down to her level. "It's wonderful, Zoe. You have real talent." Again, his phone rang with Victoria's number. Again, he ignored it. The following weekend, he watched Zara's soccer game, cheering as she scored the winning goal. Afterward, he taught her some moves in the park, laughing as she quickly mastered them. Diana watched from a bench, mixed emotions on her face. Charles was being the father she had always hoped he would be, but she worried about what would happen when the truth came out, and about her daughters becoming attached to a lifestyle they couldn't permanently have. Victoria finally cornered Charles at his mansion after trying to reach him for days. "You've been avoiding me," she accused. Charles sighed. "I've been busy." "Too busy for your fiancé, but not too busy for your maid and her children?" Victoria said coldly. "Don't look surprised. I know you've been attending their school events." "How do you know that?" Victoria waved dismissively. "It doesn't matter. What matters is you're neglecting our relationship for some charity project." "They're not a charity project," Charles said sharply. Victoria's eyes narrowed. "What's going on with you and that woman, Charles? Are you sleeping with her?" "Of course not. This isn't about Diana. It's about the children." "Since when do you care about children? You've never even mentioned wanting any until recently." Charles ran his hand through his hair. "People change, Victoria. What they want changes." "Our engagement party is in 2 weeks," Victoria reminded him. 200 guests are expecting an announcement about our wedding date." "I know," Charles said tiredly. After Victoria left, Charles called his real estate agent. "I want to see that property in Brentwood again," he said. "The one near the good elementary school." Diana was folding laundry in the staff room at Montgomery Mansion when Victoria walked in and closed the door. "We need to talk, Emily," Victoria said, emphasizing the name. Diana froze. "My name is Diana." "We both know that's not true." Victoria placed a file on the table. "Emily Pearson from Stanford University, Charles's college girlfriend." Diana said nothing. "Those girls are his, aren't they?" Victoria continued. "Does he know yet?" "That's between me and Charles," Diana replied steadily. Victoria laughed coldly. "Charles and I are getting married. Anything that affects him affects me." She pulled documents from the file. "Your documentation has some inconsistencies. I wonder what would happen if Immigration Services received an anonymous tip." Diana's face paled. "Those are old issues that were resolved years ago." "Perhaps, but an investigation would be very unpleasant. You might even be detained while they sort it out. What would happen to your daughters then?" "What do you want?" Diana asked. "Stay away from Charles," Victoria said flatly. "If you tell him those girls are his, I'll make sure you're deported and separated from your precious daughters." "He already knows," Diana said defiantly. Victoria's face hardened. "Then take his money and disappear again. You did it once before. That was different. I thought he didn't want us. Victoria stepped closer. He doesn't need you or those children disrupting our lives. I'm offering you a warning as a courtesy. Next time, I won't be so nice. After Victoria left, Diana sat trembling. She pulled out her phone to call Charles, then hesitated. Would telling him make things worse? Charles stood in an empty house in Brentwood, envisioning his daughters living there. 4 bedrooms, a big backyard, excellent schools nearby. I'll take it, he told the real estate agent. Make the offer today. As he walked through the empty rooms, he imagined the girls running through the hallways, having their own bedrooms for the first time, playing in the yard. He pictured Diana in the kitchen, no longer wearing a maid's uniform but dressed as herself. His phone rang. It was his lawyer. The paternity paperwork is ready, Richard said. Once you sign it, we can file for legal recognition and custody arrangements. Thank you, Charles replied. And the trust funds? All set up. Each girl will have their education fully covered, plus significant funds available when they turn 25. Charles ended the call and looked around the empty house again. In 2 weeks, he would announce to the world that he was a father. Everything would change. He just hoped Diana and the girls were ready for what was coming. Charles drove directly from the empty house to Diana's apartment building. This conversation couldn't wait any longer. Standing at her door, he took a deep breath before knocking. Diana opened the door, looking surprised. Charles? We weren't expecting you today. We need to talk, he said quietly. About telling the girls. Diana's eyes widened. She checked to make sure the triplets were occupied in their bedroom before inviting him in. The small apartment was clean but cramped, with worn furniture and walls that needed paint. I've been meeting with a child psychologist, Charles said, sitting on the edge of the sofa, about how to tell 8-year-old girls that I'm their father. Diana sat across from him. What did they say? That we should be honest, direct, and reassuring. That we should do it together. Charles leaned forward. Diana, I can't wait anymore. The engagement party is in 10 days, and I'm planning to announce it there. Announce it? Diana looked alarmed. To everyone? Yes, which means we need to tell the girls first, privately. Charles reached for her hand. They deserve to know before the rest of the world does. Diana pulled her hand away gently. Victoria came to see me yesterday. She threatened me. What? Charles's face darkened. What did she say? She knows everything. She threatened to have me deported if I don't take your money and disappear again. Charles stood up angrily. That's ridiculous. You're a U.S. citizen. She found some documentation issues from when I changed my name. She's trying to scare me. Diana looked toward the bedroom where the girls were playing. Charles, I'm worried about what all this attention will do to them. I've thought about that, Charles said. I've purchased a house in Brentwood. Excellent schools, security, privacy. You and the girls would have your own space. Diana shook her head. We can't just move into your world. It's not that simple. I know, Charles admitted, but I've missed 8 years already. I don't want to miss any more. They agreed to tell the girls that evening. Charles went home to collect some old photos while Diana prepared the triplets, telling them only that they had an important visitor coming. When Charles returned, Diana gathered the girls in the living room. They sat side by side on the couch, looking curiously at their mother and Mr. Montgomery. Girls, Diana began, her voice trembling slightly. Remember when you asked about your father and I told you he was someone special who didn't know about you? The triplets nodded. Well, Diana continued, something amazing has happened. Your father has found us. 3 pairs of identical blue eyes widened. Your father is... Diana looked at Charles. It's me, Charles said gently. I'm your father. Silence filled the room. Then Zoe jumped up first. I knew it, she exclaimed. That's why we have the same eyes. She ran to Charles and threw her arms around him. Charles hugged her back, tears forming in his eyes. Zoe began to cry. "Why weren't you here before?" she asked through her tears. "Didn't you want us?" Charles moved to kneel in front of her. "I didn't know about you." "If I had known, I would have been here from the very beginning." "That's not true," Zara said fiercely, standing next to Diana. "Mom tried to tell you. You didn't care." "Zara," Diana said firmly, "that's not what happened. Charles's father kept my messages from him. Charles never knew I was pregnant." "Your grandfather intercepted all the calls and letters," Charles explained. "He died 5 years ago, and I never knew what he'd done." "Prove it," Zara challenged. Charles pulled out his phone and showed them photos of himself at their age. The resemblance was undeniable. The same blue eyes, the same smile. "Is that why you started the Saturday program?" Zoe asked. "To get to know us?" Charles nodded. "I wanted to meet you properly before telling you the truth." Slowly, over the next hour, they talked. Charles answered their questions as honestly as he could. Zoe eventually stopped crying and moved closer to him. Zara remained skeptical, but listened. "What happens now?" Zoe finally asked. "Will we live with you?" "That's something your mother and I need to figure out," Charles said, looking at Diana. "But I want to be part of your lives every day from now on, if you'll let me." Later, after the girls went to bed, Charles and Diana sat at her small kitchen table. "Zoe seems the most accepting," Diana observed. "She's like me," Charles said. "Practical, solution-oriented. Zoe will need more emotional reassurance. And Zara? Zara is protective," Diana finished. "She's always looked out for her sisters. She won't trust you easily." Charles nodded. "I'll earn her trust. I'll earn all of their trust." The next morning, Charles confronted Victoria in his study at the mansion. "I know you threatened Diana," he said coldly. Victoria looked surprised for only a second before composing herself. "I did what was necessary to protect our future." "By threatening the mother of my children?" "Those girls are a complication we don't need," Victoria said dismissively. "Pay her off and we can move on with our lives." "Our lives?" Charles repeated. "There is no our anymore. You've shown me exactly who you are, Victoria." Victoria's expression hardened. "Don't be dramatic, Charles. People like us don't raise children. We hire people for that. Those girls will never fit into our world." "Then perhaps it's not a world I want to be part of anymore," Charles replied. Victoria stepped closer. "The engagement party is next week. 200 of the most influential people in Los Angeles will be there. Are you really going to embarrass me in front of everyone?" "The party will happen exactly as planned," Charles said evenly, "but what I announce might surprise you." After Victoria stormed out, Charles called Marcus. "I need you to hire additional security for the party," he instructed, "and I want a background check on Victoria's private investigator. Something doesn't feel right." 3 days before the engagement party, Charles took each girl out individually. He spent the morning with Zoe at a technology museum, watching her excitement as she experimented with different exhibits. "Did you like computers when you were my age?" she asked. "I did," Charles replied. "I built my first computer when I was 10. "Will you teach me?" Her eyes lit up with enthusiasm. "I would love to," Charles promised. That afternoon, he took Zoe to an art gallery. She was quiet at first, but gradually opened up as they viewed the paintings. "I like how art makes you feel things," she said softly. Charles nodded. "Your drawings make me feel happy." Zoe slipped her small hand into his. "I'm glad you're our dad." For dinner, he took Zara for pizza. She remained guarded, studying him carefully. "Are you going to hurt my mom?" she asked directly. "No," Charles answered firmly. "I respect your mother very much." "She worked really hard to take care of us," Zara continued, "all by herself." "I know," Charles said. "Your mother is one of the strongest people I've ever met." Zara took a bite of pizza. "What happens after your party? Will you still want to see us?" Charles met her gaze directly. "Zara, you and your sisters are the most important people in my life now. Nothing will change that." The night before the engagement party, Charles worked late in his home office. His lawyer had delivered final documents recognizing the triplets as his legal heirs. He had also prepared trust funds for each girl, ensuring their education and future would be secure. Marcus entered with a concerned expression. "Sir, I have information about Victoria's investigator. He was recording her." "Recording?" Charles looked up. "Why?" It seems he developed concerns about the nature of her requests regarding Diana. He recorded their conversations as insurance. "Does Victoria know?" "No, sir. He reached out to us directly when he heard about the security request. He has recordings of Victoria explicitly threatening Diana." Charles leaned back in his chair. "Get those recordings. They might be useful tomorrow." After Marcus left, Charles opened his desk drawer and took out 3 small velvet boxes. Inside each was an identical silver necklace with a delicate star pendant. He had ordered them specially for his daughters, a symbol of his commitment to them. His phone buzzed with a text from Diana. "Girls are nervous about tomorrow. Zara keeps asking what happens after the party." Charles replied, "Tell them that after tomorrow, we begin our real story together." What he didn't tell Diana was that Victoria had hired additional security guards with strict instructions to prevent Diana and her disruptive children from entering the main ballroom of the mansion. But Charles had his own plans to ensure his daughters would be present for his announcement. Tomorrow would change everything, for all of them. The morning of the engagement party arrived with clear skies over Beverly Hills. Charles woke up early, his mind already racing with preparations for the evening ahead. He checked his phone and found a text from Marcus. "All security arrangements confirmed. Side entrance ready for special guests." Charles smiled. He had spent days planning every detail to ensure Diana and the girls could enter the mansion unnoticed by Victoria's security. Meanwhile, across town, Diana woke to someone knocking on her apartment door. When she opened it, she found a woman with a professional smile and several garment bags. "Miss Johnson, I'm Sarah from Elite Styling. Mr. Montgomery sent me to help you and your daughters prepare for tonight." Diana hesitated. "We don't need anything fancy." "Mr. Montgomery insisted," Sarah replied. "I have dresses for you and the girls, plus hair and makeup services." The triplets appeared behind Diana, their eyes wide with excitement. "We get fancy dresses?" Zoe asked hopefully. Diana sighed. "Come in." As Sarah unpacked elegant dresses in the small living room, Diana picked up her phone and called Charles. "A stylist?" she said when he answered. "Charles, we don't need your charity." "It's not charity," Charles replied gently. "Tonight is important. I want you all to feel comfortable and confident." "We have perfectly fine clothes," Diana insisted. "Please," Charles said, "let me do this for them, for their first public appearance as my daughters." Diana watched as Zoe twirled around with a pale blue dress held against her. The joy on her daughter's face melted Diana's resolve. "Fine," she conceded. "But this doesn't mean we're becoming dependent on you." After hanging up, Charles called his lawyer. "Is the restraining order in place?" he asked. "Yes," Richard confirmed. "Victoria's investigator cannot come within 100 yards of Diana or the girls, though from what I hear he's more interested in helping us than Victoria at this point." "Good. And you'll be at the party tonight?" "Front row," Richard assured him, "with all the necessary documentation if needed." Across town, Victoria sat in an expensive coffee shop, checking her watch impatiently. Finally, Diana entered, looking nervous. "Sit down," Victoria commanded. Diana remained standing. "You wanted to talk. I'm here. What do you want?" Victoria slid an envelope across the table. $50,000. Take it and leave town with your daughters. Today. Diana didn't touch the envelope. "The girls know Charles is their father now. We're going to the party tonight." Victoria's perfectly composed face tightened. "You think you can just insert yourself into Charles's life after all these years? Those girls will ruin everything." Those girls are his daughters, Diana said firmly, and they deserve to know their father. What they deserve doesn't matter, Victoria hissed. What matters is what's best for Charles, for his image, for his future. Maybe Charles should decide that for himself, Diana replied. Victoria stood up, towering over Diana in her designer heels. This is your last chance. Take the money and disappear, or I'll make sure those documentation issues become very real problems for you. Diana straightened her shoulders. Those threats might have worked on the old me, but I'm not afraid anymore. As Diana turned to leave, Victoria called after her. You'll regret this. All of you will. Back at his mansion, Charles met with Jack Thompson, his oldest friend from college days. So it's true, Jack said, looking at photos of the triplets. Emily's daughters are yours. Yes, Charles confirmed, and her name is Diana now. Jack shook his head in disbelief. I remember Emily from Stanford. Sweet girl. I never understood why she disappeared so suddenly. He studied the photos more closely. They have your eyes, Charles. They have more than that, Charles said. Zoe has my brain for technology. Zoe has my mother's artistic talent, and Zara has my stubbornness. How's Victoria taking all this? Jack asked. Charles grimaced. Not well. She sees them as a threat to her perfect life plan. And the engagement? Over, Charles said firmly. Though Victoria doesn't know that yet. Jack whistled. Bold move to announce it at your engagement party. It's the perfect opportunity. Everyone who matters will be there. I can control the narrative. And the girls? Are they ready for this level of attention? Charles hesitated. As ready as they can be. Diana has prepared them. But there's no way to fully prepare children for this kind of spotlight. By late afternoon, Diana's apartment had transformed into a beauty salon. The stylist had brought an assistant, and together they worked on hair, makeup, and final dress fittings. Zoe twirled in front of the mirror in her navy blue dress. I look like a princess. Zoe admired her identical dress in pale blue. Do you think Dad will like our dresses? Diana's heart skipped at hearing Charles called Dad so naturally now. Zara stood still as the stylist adjusted her deep purple dress. What if those rich people are mean to us? They won't be, Diana assured her. And if anyone is unkind, we'll leave. We don't need their approval. As the stylist finished Diana's hair, she handed her a phone. Mr. Montgomery would like to speak with you. Diana took the phone. Hello? How are things going? Charles asked. The girls are excited. Nervous, but excited. And you? Diana sighed. Terrified. Victoria found me earlier. She offered me money to leave town. Charles's voice hardened. What did you tell her? That I'm not afraid of her anymore, Diana replied, though that's not entirely true. You have nothing to fear, Charles assured her. I've arranged everything. Marcus will pick you up in an unmarked car at 6 o'clock. He'll bring you through the service entrance directly to my study. You'll wait there until I call for you during my speech. Charles. Diana hesitated. Are you sure about this? Once you make this announcement, there's no going back. I've never been more certain of anything, he replied firmly. At 5 o'clock, Victoria arrived early at the mansion to oversee the final preparations. The ballroom had been transformed with elegant decorations, flowers, and soft lighting. A small stage stood at one end where Charles would make his speech. Is everything ready? She asked the event planner. Yes, Ms. Blackwood, just as you specified. Victoria noticed extra security personnel she didn't recognize. Who are these men? Mr. Montgomery added additional security this afternoon, the event planner explained. Victoria frowned. Something felt wrong, but she couldn't place what. She had hired her own security to ensure Diana and those children couldn't interrupt the party. What was Charles planning? She found him in his bedroom, adjusting his tie. There you are, she said. We need to review your speech for tonight. Charles turned to look at her. I've prepared my own speech, Victoria. But we agreed you would announce a June wedding date, Victoria insisted. I'll say what needs to be said, Charles replied cryptically. Victoria studied his face. What are you planning, Charles? You'll find out soon enough, he answered. At 6:30, Marcus escorted Diana and the triplets through the service entrance, successfully avoiding Victoria's security guards stationed at the main doors. They settled into Charles's private study, hearing the muffled sounds of the party beginning in the ballroom. Are you nervous, Mom? Zoe asked, noticing Diana's hands trembling. A little, Diana admitted. We'll protect you, Zara declared, standing guard near the door. Zoe sat quietly, smoothing her dress repeatedly. Will people take pictures of us? Probably, Diana answered honestly. But remember what we talked about. You don't have to smile if you don't want to. You don't have to speak to anyone if you don't want to. A knock at the door made them all jump. Marcus entered with 3 small velvet boxes. From Mr. Montgomery, he explained, handing one to each girl. Inside, they found identical silver necklaces with star pendants. They're beautiful, Zoe whispered. Mr. Montgomery said to tell you that stars shine brightest together, Marcus relayed, and that he'll send for you in about 30 minutes. After Marcus left, Diana helped the girls put on their necklaces. She fought back tears seeing how grown up they looked in their fancy dresses, their hair styled perfectly, their father's blue eyes shining with excitement. Remember, she told them, no matter what happens tonight, we're still us. We're still a family. But a bigger family now, Zoe pointed out, with Dad. Diana nodded. With Dad. In the ballroom, guests continued to arrive. The who's who of Los Angeles filled the space, business leaders, celebrities, politicians. Victoria greeted them graciously, accepting congratulations on her engagement while keeping one eye on Charles. Something was definitely wrong. He seemed distracted, constantly checking his watch and conferring with his assistant. As 7 o'clock approached, Victoria grabbed Charles's arm. It's time for your speech, she said. Don't forget to announce June for the wedding. Charles looked at her, seeing clearly for the first time the coldness behind her beauty. The speech will proceed exactly as planned, he said, moving toward the stage. The room quieted as Charles took his position at the microphone. Victoria stood to the side, a practiced smile on her face as she waited to join him for their big announcement. What she didn't know was that Peter Walker, her former investigator, stood near the back of the room with recordings ready to play, and 4 special guests waited nervously in a study down the hall, about to change the course of the evening entirely. Charles tapped the microphone and began to speak. Good evening, everyone, Charles began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Thank you all for coming tonight. The ballroom fell silent as 200 guests focused their attention on him. Victoria stood to the side, her perfect smile fixed in place as she waited for him to announce their wedding date. Many of you have known me for years, Charles continued. You've watched my company grow. You've celebrated my business successes, and tonight you came expecting to celebrate my engagement to Victoria. Victoria's smile widened as she prepared to join him on stage. But life sometimes gives us unexpected surprises, Charles said, his voice softening. 9 years ago, I lost contact with someone very special to me. Through a series of events I'm still coming to understand, I never knew that I had become a father. A murmur swept through the crowd. Victoria's smile froze on her face. 3 weeks ago, I discovered something incredible, Charles said. I have 3 daughters. Beautiful, intelligent, amazing 8-year-old triplets. The murmuring grew louder. Guests exchanged shocked glances. Tonight, I want to introduce you to the most important people in my life, my daughters. Charles gestured toward the back of the room. Marcus, please bring them in. Victoria stepped forward quickly, grabbing Charles's arm. What are you doing? She hissed. I'm introducing my children to the world, Charles replied calmly. We talked about this, Victoria said through clenched teeth, her voice carrying through the microphone. "Those girls will ruin everything." Her words echoed through the suddenly silent room. Every guest heard her clearly. At that moment, Marcus opened the ballroom doors. Diana entered with the three girls, all four looking nervous but determined in their elegant dresses. The triplets' matching star necklaces caught the light as they walked forward. Victoria turned toward them, her face contorted with anger. "Stop them," she called to her security guards. "They're not supposed to be here." The guards looked confused, unsure whose orders to follow. Charles's security team stepped forward, blocking them. "Victoria," Charles said, his voice hard. "That's enough." "Enough?" Victoria's composure cracked completely. "You're throwing away everything for your maid and her brats." A tall man stepped forward from the back of the room. "Ms. Blackwood, I suggest you stop talking now." Victoria whirled around. "Peter? What are you doing here?" Peter Walker held up a small recording device. "I think everyone should hear the real Victoria Blackwood." He pressed play, and Victoria's voice filled the ballroom. "Those girls are a complication we don't need. Pay her off and we can move on with our lives. People like us don't raise children. We hire people for that." Another recording played. "Take the money and disappear, or I'll make sure those documentation issues become very real problems for you." Victoria lunged for the device, but Peter stepped back. "I have copies," he said. "I recorded everything after you asked me to find dirt on Diana. There are laws against the kind of threats you made." Charles stepped off the stage and walked toward Diana and the girls. The crowd parted, creating a path for them. "Everyone," Charles said loudly, "I'd like you to meet Zoe, and Zara Montgomery, my daughters." He knelt down to the girls' level. "Are you ready?" he asked softly. Zoe nodded eagerly. Zoe gave a shy smile. Zara looked around suspiciously, but nodded. Charles took their hands and led them to the stage. Diana followed a step behind. "As you can see," Charles said into the microphone, "our family doesn't fit the traditional model. Diana and I are not together romantically, but we are committed to raising our daughters together." He turned to Victoria, who stood frozen with fury and humiliation. "Victoria, our engagement is over. I think it's best if you leave now." Victoria's face flushed red. "You'll regret this," she spat. "All of you." She yanked off her engagement ring and threw it at Charles's feet before storming out of the ballroom. An uncomfortable silence followed her exit. Then Jack Thompson, Charles's college friend, began to applaud. Others joined in, the applause spreading throughout the room. Charles put his arm around Diana's shoulders and smiled at his daughters. "This isn't the celebration we planned," he told the crowd, "but it's the one we needed. Thank you all for being here to witness the beginning of our new family." People began approaching the stage, offering congratulations and introducing themselves to the girls. Zoe stepped forward confidently, shaking hands and answering questions. Zoe stayed close to Charles, smiling shyly at the guests. Zara kept a protective stance near Diana, watching everyone carefully. Diana leaned toward Charles. "That was quite an entrance," she whispered. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I think so," she replied, "though I'm not sure how I feel about being the center of a society scandal." "It won't be a scandal for long," Charles assured her. "People love a good family reunion story." As the evening continued, the mood shifted from shock to celebration. Guests who had come expecting a traditional engagement party found themselves charmed by the triplets. Several mothers in attendance made special efforts to welcome Diana into their circle. The mayor of Los Angeles shook Charles's hand. "Bold move, Montgomery," he said, "but I respect a man who puts family first." "Thank you," Charles replied. "It's new territory for me." "Fatherhood always is," the mayor laughed. "Wait until they become teenagers." Later, as the party began to wind down, Charles found Diana sitting alone at a table, watching the girls. Zoe was deep in conversation with a female tech CEO. Zoe was showing her drawings to an art gallery owner. Zara had finally relaxed enough to accept a dance lesson from Charles's elderly aunt. "They're adapting quickly," Charles observed, sitting next to Diana. "Children are resilient," Diana replied. "But this is just one night. Tomorrow will be harder." "What do you mean?" "Tomorrow this will be news," Diana explained. "Reporters, photographers, social media, everyone will be talking about us." Charles nodded solemnly. "I've already spoken with a security firm. They'll be at your apartment first thing tomorrow morning." Diana tensed. "My apartment?" "Just until we can move you to somewhere more secure," Charles explained. "The Brentwood house won't be ready for another week." "Charles," Diana said firmly, "we haven't agreed to move into that house." Before Charles could respond, Marcus approached them urgently. "Sir, there are reporters gathering outside. Someone tipped them off. They know about the triplets." Charles stood immediately. "Get the car ready at the service entrance. We need to get Diana and the girls out without them being seen." Diana gathered the girls quickly while Charles made his apologies to the remaining guests. Within minutes, they were hurrying down a back hallway toward the service entrance. "What's happening?" Zara asked, sensing the tension. "Some people with cameras want to take your picture," Charles explained simply. "But we don't want that right now." They reached the service door just as they heard commotion at the main entrance. Charles's driver had the car waiting, engine running. "Get in quickly," Charles instructed, helping the girls into the back seat. Diana turned to him. "Aren't you coming with us?" Charles shook his head. "I'll stay and handle the press. Give them a statement so they'll leave you alone. I'll have security take you to a hotel tonight. It's not safe to go back to your apartment." Diana looked alarmed. "A hotel? For how long?" "Just until I can make better arrangements," Charles promised. "Diana, trust me. This is just the beginning of the media attention. We need to protect the girls." Diana nodded reluctantly and got into the car. The triplets pressed their faces against the window as the car pulled away. "Will Dad be okay?" Zoe asked worriedly. "He'll be fine," Diana assured her. "Your father is used to dealing with reporters." As they drove through the dark Beverly Hills streets, Diana checked her phone. Social media was already buzzing with news of the dramatic engagement party revelation. Someone had taken photos inside the ballroom. "Mom," Zoe said, looking at Diana's phone screen. "Is that us? Are we on the internet?" Diana quickly put her phone away. "Yes, sweetheart. People are talking about us meeting your father." "Are they saying nice things?" Zoe asked. "Some are," Diana answered honestly. "Some aren't. But what matters is that we know the truth." The car pulled into an underground garage beneath an expensive hotel. The driver escorted them through a private elevator directly to a suite on the top floor. "Mr. Montgomery reserved this for you," he explained, handing Diana a key card. "Security will be outside your door all night." After the driver left, the girls explored the luxurious suite with wide eyes. "This place is bigger than our whole apartment!" Zara exclaimed. Diana sank onto a couch, suddenly overwhelmed by everything that had happened. The girls sensed her mood and gathered around her. "Are you sad, Mom?" Zoe asked, touching Diana's cheek. Diana pulled all three into a hug. "No, sweetheart. Just tired. It's been a very big day." "But a good day, right?" Zoe asked. "Because everyone knows we're Dad's daughters now." "Yes," Diana agreed. "It's a good thing that the truth is out. But our lives are going to change a lot now." "Will we still go to our school?" Zara asked. "Will we still see Mrs. Rodriguez?" Zoe added. "I don't know," Diana admitted. "We need to figure everything out with your father." Later, after the girls were asleep in one of the suite's bedrooms, Diana's phone rang. It was Charles. "Are you all okay?" He asked immediately. "We're fine," Diana assured him. "The girls are asleep. How are things there?" "Under control," Charles replied. "I gave a brief statement. The basic facts, nothing more. I emphasized our request for privacy." Diana laughed softly. Will they respect that? Not likely, Charles admitted. We're big news right now. Tech billionaire discovers secret triplet daughters. It's too good a story for them to ignore. Diana sighed. What happens tomorrow? I've arranged for a tutor to come to the hotel. The girls shouldn't go to school while this initial frenzy is happening. I'll come by in the morning with some clothes and things for you all. Diana felt a flicker of resistance at how quickly Charles was taking control, but she was too tired to argue. Thank you, she said simply. Diana, Charles's voice softened. You were amazing tonight. The way you handled everything, how you supported the girls. I couldn't have asked for a better mother for my daughters. Diana felt unexpected tears form. Good night, Charles. Good night. Tell the girls I'll see them tomorrow. Diana hung up and walked to the bedroom doorway, watching her daughters sleep. Their faces looked so peaceful, unaware that tomorrow their photos would be in newspapers across the country. Unaware that their lives had permanently changed in ways they couldn't yet understand. Outside the hotel windows, the lights of Los Angeles sparkled in the darkness. Diana wondered where they would be this time next year, and if they would ever feel normal again. Diana woke to the sound of her phone buzzing repeatedly. Sunlight streamed through the hotel suite's windows as she grabbed the device from the nightstand. 27 missed calls and hundreds of text messages filled her screen. She opened a news app and immediately saw Charles's face on the front page, alongside blurry photos of her and the triplets. Tech billionaire Charles Montgomery reveals secret triplet daughters at engagement party. Another headline read, Montgomery breaks engagement to introduce triplet daughters and their mother. Diana quickly closed the app and went to check on the girls. They were still asleep, their identical faces peaceful, unaware of the media storm brewing outside. A soft knock at the suite door made Diana jump. Through the peephole, she saw Charles with several security guards. Morning, he said when she opened the door. He looked tired but alert. I brought clothes and necessities for everyone. He nodded to the guards who carried in several shopping bags and suitcases. You've been shopping? Diana asked. Marcus handled it, Charles explained. I also brought bad news. Reporters found your apartment building. There are at least 20 of them camped outside. Diana's face paled. My things. Our photos. Important documents. Already taken care of, Charles assured her. Security retrieved everything early this morning. It's all being moved to the Brentwood house. Charles, we never agreed. It's temporary, he interrupted gently, until we figure out a permanent solution. Your apartment isn't safe right now. Before Diana could respond, Zoe appeared in the bedroom doorway, rubbing her eyes. Dad? She said sleepily, you're here early. Charles's expression softened immediately. Good morning, Zoe. I wanted to check on you all. Zoe spotted the bags. What's all that? New clothes and things you'll need for a few days, Charles explained. Soon all three girls were awake, examining the contents of the shopping bags with mixed reactions. These shoes are fancy, Zoe exclaimed, holding up glittery sneakers. Zara frowned at a designer dress. This looks expensive. We don't need expensive stuff. I got a laptop, Zoe gasped, pulling out a sleek computer. Charles sat on the couch watching them. I wasn't sure what you would like. We can return anything that doesn't work. Diana pulled him aside while the girls explored their new things. Charles, this is too much. You can't just buy them whatever you want. They need clothes, Charles said. And Zoe mentioned wanting to learn coding. The laptop has educational programs. We need to talk about how we're going to handle this, Diana insisted, about boundaries and expectations. Charles nodded. You're right. But first, we need to get you all somewhere more private. I've arranged a helicopter to take us to my beach house in Malibu. A helicopter? Diana echoed. Charles, we can't just run away from our life. It's not running away, Charles replied. It's strategic retreat until the media frenzy dies down. Diana looked at the girls, now trying on new clothes and giggling together. What about their school? Their friends? Our apartment? I've spoken with their principal. The school will provide assignments for the next 2 weeks. As for the apartment, Charles hesitated. Diana, you can't go back there. Not with cameras everywhere. Not with Victoria potentially still angry. Diana sighed. This is happening so fast. I know, Charles admitted, but I'm trying to protect them. To protect all of you. 2 hours later, they were in a helicopter flying over Los Angeles. The triplets pressed their faces against the windows, their reactions as different as their personalities. This is amazing, Zoe exclaimed, fascinated by the helicopter's controls. Everything looks so small, Zoe whispered, taking in the view with wide eyes. Zara sat back from the window. I don't like being so high up, she admitted quietly. Charles moved to sit beside her. It's okay to be nervous. The helicopter is completely safe. Zara looked at him skeptically. Promise? I promise, Charles said seriously. I wouldn't let anything happen to you or your sisters. Meanwhile, in a downtown Los Angeles office building, the board of Montgomery Tech was in emergency session. The stock dropped 7 points when the market opened, reported the chief financial officer, but it's already recovering. The public reaction has been mixed, added the head of public relations. Many people find the story heartwarming. Some investors are concerned about Charles's judgment. Has anyone heard from Charles today? Asked the board chairman. He sent a brief email this morning, the CFO replied. He's taking a few days to settle his family situation but remains fully engaged with all critical company matters. Across town, Victoria Blackwood sat in her publicist's office reviewing a drafted statement. This makes me sound pathetic, Victoria snapped, throwing the paper aside. I'm not a victim. The public needs to sympathize with you, her publicist explained patiently. We need to counter the narrative that you threatened a single mother and her children. Those recordings are taken out of context, Victoria insisted. Context doesn't matter now. The story is out there. Charles Montgomery, beloved tech genius, discovers he has 3 adorable daughters and heartlessly ditches his gold-digging fiancée. That's the narrative we're fighting. Victoria's face hardened. I want a different approach. Focus on how he humiliated me publicly, how he planned this reveal at our engagement party for maximum dramatic effect. That approach might work, the publicist conceded. We position you as blindsided, just as shocked as everyone else. Victoria smiled coldly. Exactly. Charles Montgomery isn't the saint everyone thinks he is. By early afternoon, Charles's Malibu beach house had become their sanctuary. Situated on a private stretch of beach with security gates and tall hedges, it offered protection from prying eyes and cameras. The girls ran excitedly through the house, discovering bedrooms with ocean views, a pool in the backyard, and a game room with every entertainment option imaginable. Can we go swimming? Zoe asked hopefully. After lunch, Diana promised. First, let's get settled. While the girls explored, Charles showed Diana to her room, a spacious suite with its own balcony overlooking the ocean. This is beautiful, Diana admitted. It's yours for as long as you need it, Charles said. I'll stay in the guest house so you and the girls have your space. What about your work? Diana asked. You can't just abandon your company? I'm not, Charles assured her. I have video conferences scheduled this afternoon. The company will be fine without me physically there for a few days. Diana sat on the edge of the bed. Charles, we need to talk about the future. Real plans, not just emergency reactions. You're right, Charles agreed, sitting beside her. What do you want to do? I don't know, Diana admitted. Part of me wants to take the girls back to our normal life, but I know that's impossible now. I've purchased a house in Brentwood, Charles said. Great neighborhood, excellent schools, good security. You and the girls would have your own space, your own rules. I could live nearby. Diana shook her head. We need our independence, not a gilded cage. It's not a cage, Charles protested. It's a home, a safe place for our daughters. Our daughters have been safe with me for 8 years, Diana reminded him. Their conversation was interrupted by shrieks of delight from outside. They looked out the window to see the triplets on the beach, chasing waves. We should join them, Charles suggested. We can continue this discussion later. On the beach, Charles experienced something entirely new. Simple play with his children. He helped them build sandcastles, showed them how to find seashells, and carried Zoe on his shoulders into the shallow waves. Diana watched from a beach chair, emotions conflicting within her. Seeing Charles with the girls filled her with happiness for them, but also stirred complicated feelings about their situation. That evening, after the girls were asleep in their new beds, Charles and Diana sat on the deck with coffee. They had a good day, Charles observed, despite everything. Children adapt, Diana said, but they're processing a lot of changes very quickly. Charles nodded. I spoke with my lawyer today. He's preparing the official paternity documents. Once filed, the girls will legally be Montgomerys. They're already Montgomerys, Diana said. A piece of paper doesn't change that. It changes everything legally, Charles explained. Inheritance, medical decisions, school registrations. It protects them. And custody? Diana asked directly. Joint custody, Charles replied without hesitation. Equal rights and responsibilities. I would never try to take them from you, Diana. Diana looked out at the dark ocean. Sometimes I feel like that's already happening. In just 1 week, they've become attached to you, to this lifestyle. They're attached to me because I'm their father, Charles said, not because of money or lifestyle. Diana turned to him. And what happens when you go back to your real life? When you're working 16-hour days again? When there's a new girlfriend who might not want 3 children around? That's not going to happen, Charles insisted. My priorities have changed. The girls come first now. It's easy to say that in the beginning, Diana replied, but life gets complicated. Charles reached for her hand. Diana, I missed 8 years. I won't miss any more. Whatever we need to figure out, we'll figure it out together. Diana didn't pull her hand away. I hope so, for their sake. Inside the house, Zara stood in the hallway, listening to their conversation, her young face serious beyond her years. She turned and went back to the bedroom she shared with her sisters, climbed into bed, and stared at the ceiling, wondering what tomorrow would bring for their newly expanded family. 2 weeks passed at the Malibu beach house. The media frenzy continued but had shifted focus slightly when a famous actress announced her divorce. Still, photographers occasionally appeared on boats offshore, hoping to capture images of the Montgomery family. Morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows as Diana prepared breakfast. The girls had adjusted to their temporary home with varying degrees of enthusiasm. Mom, look! Zoe called from the living room where she sat with her laptop. They're talking about us on the morning news again. Diana sighed. Turn it off, please. But they're saying nice things this time, Zoe protested. Charles entered from the patio. Zoe, remember our agreement about news and social media? Only 30 minutes a day, supervised, Zoe recited reluctantly, closing her laptop. Zoe appeared with a sketchbook. Dad, I finished the drawing of the beach. Want to see? Absolutely, Charles said, examining her artwork with genuine appreciation. This is excellent, Zoe. You captured the waves perfectly. Diana placed plates of pancakes on the table. Where's Zara? Still in bed, Zoe reported. She said her stomach hurts. Charles and Diana exchanged concerned glances. This was the 3rd morning Zara had complained about not feeling well. I'll talk to her, Diana said, heading toward the girls' bedroom. She found Zara curled up in bed, her back to the door. Sweetie, breakfast is ready. I'm not hungry, Zara mumbled. Diana sat on the edge of the bed. Is your stomach really hurting or is something else bothering you? Zara rolled over, her blue eyes, so like Charles's, filled with worry. When are we going home? This is temporary, remember? Diana stroked her daughter's hair. We just need to wait until things calm down. But then we're moving to a different house, right? Not our apartment. Zara pressed. Diana nodded slowly. Your father thinks it would be better for everyone. What about my friends? And Mrs. Rodriguez? And my soccer team? Zara's voice cracked. Everything's changing and nobody asked me what I wanted. Diana pulled Zara into a hug. I know it's hard. I miss our old life too. Do you? Zara asked skeptically. You don't seem to mind the fancy house and not having to work. Diana held Zara at arm's length. Zara Johnson Montgomery, listen to me. I would give up all of this in a second if that's what would make you and your sisters happiest. The only reason I'm considering these changes is because I think in the long run, they might be good for all of us. Zara wiped her eyes. I heard you and Dad talking that first night about custody. Diana's heart sank. You shouldn't have been listening to adult conversations. Are you and Dad going to fight over us? Zara asked directly. No, Diana assured her. We're working together to figure things out. We both want what's best for you girls. Promise? Promise, Diana said firmly. Now will you please come have breakfast? Your dad made chocolate chip pancakes. In the kitchen, Charles was helping Zoe cut her pancakes while Zoe explained something about her coding project. Diana watched from the doorway, struck by how natural he seemed with them now. In just 2 weeks, he had learned each girl's preferences. Zoe liked extra syrup, Zoe needed her food in small pieces, and Zara preferred everything separate on her plate. Later that morning, Charles took a video call in his study while Diana supervised the girls' school assignments. Their teachers had been sending work electronically, but Diana worried about how much they were missing by being away from school. When Charles emerged from his study, his expression was tense. Everything okay? Diana asked. Just business challenges, Charles replied. Nothing serious. Diana gave him a skeptical look. Charles, we agreed to be honest with each other. Charles sighed. The company stock took a hit when the news first broke. It's recovering, but some board members are concerned about my focus. They want me back in the office full-time. You should go, Diana said. We're fine here with the security team. I'm not leaving you and the girls, Charles insisted. Not yet. Charles, you have responsibilities. You can't put your entire company on hold for us. Before he could respond, his phone rang. It's my lawyer, he said, answering the call. Diana returned to the girls, helping Zoe with her math homework, while Zoe worked independently on her computer and Zara reluctantly practiced her reading. Charles joined them 15 minutes later, looking pleased. Good news! The paternity paperwork has been filed. The trust funds are established, and the Brentwood house will be ready next week. Diana tensed slightly. Charles, we still haven't fully discussed the living arrangements. What's to discuss? Charles seemed genuinely confused. The house has everything we talked about. Separate spaces, great security, excellent school district. The issue isn't the house, Diana explained carefully. It's that you've made all these decisions without really including me. Charles looked surprised. I thought I was helping. You are, Diana acknowledged. But these are decisions we should make together. And, she lowered her voice, we should talk privately. Be that evening after dinner, while the girls watched a movie, Charles and Diana sat on the patio to continue their discussion. I toured 3 houses before choosing this one, Charles explained. It has everything we need. That's not the point, Diana replied. The point is that you chose it without me. You're making decisions about our lives as if... As if what? Charles asked when she stopped. As if you're in charge, Diana finished. As if you know what's best for us because you're wealthy. Charles looked genuinely taken aback. That's not my intention. I know, Diana said more gently. But Charles, I've been making all the decisions for 8 years. I've taken care of them, provided for them, protected them. I need you to respect that. I do respect it, Charles insisted. I think you're an amazing mother. Then let me be part of the decisions, not just informed about them afterward. Charles was quiet for a moment. "You're right. I'm used to solving problems quickly, decisively." "Our family isn't a business problem to solve," Diana said. Charles reached for her hand. "I'm sorry. Would you be willing to see the house before deciding? It's your choice. If you don't like it, we'll find something else." Diana nodded. "That seems fair." The next day, Charles arranged for a private viewing of the Brentwood house. When they arrived, Diana was immediately struck by how beautiful it was. A spacious, modern home with large windows surrounded by trees for privacy. "It's less ostentatious than I expected," she admitted as they walked through. "I thought you'd prefer something more practical than showy," Charles explained. "There are 4 bedrooms upstairs, 1 for each girl and 1 for you. The master suite downstairs would be mine when I stay over." "You wouldn't live here full-time?" Diana asked, surprised. "I thought you wanted independence," Charles replied. "I'd stay certain nights for bedtimes and breakfasts. I'd be nearby the rest of the time." Diana walked to a large window overlooking the backyard with its swimming pool and play area. "You've really thought this through." "I have," Charles acknowledged, "but the final decision is yours." The triplets raced through the house, exclaiming over their potential bedrooms and the backyard. "Can we have a dog here?" Zara asked, showing her first real enthusiasm since the revelation. "I think that could be arranged," Charles smiled. Later that week, Diana sat down with all 3 girls to discuss the move. "So we're really not going back to our apartment?" Zoe asked. "No, sweetie," Diana answered honestly. "Too many people know where it is now. It wouldn't be private or safe." "I like the new house," Zoe said. "My room would be perfect for all my projects." "I could paint my own walls," Zoe added excitedly. "Dad said so." They all looked at Zara, who had been quietest about the house. "Will Dad really let us get a dog?" she asked. "He promised," Diana confirmed. Zara thought for a moment. "Then I guess it's okay." The day before their planned move, Charles received a call from his executive assistant. "Sir, there's a situation at headquarters," Marcus reported. "Victoria Blackwood gave an interview to Business Today. She's making some concerning claims." "What kind of claims?" Charles asked, stepping away from where the girls were packing their belongings. "She's suggesting you knew about the children years ago but kept them hidden for business reasons. That you engineered the whole revelation to humiliate her." Charles sighed heavily. "Send me the interview. I'll issue a response." After hanging up, he found Diana in the kitchen. "Victoria's making trouble," he explained, showing her the interview on his tablet. Diana read it with growing concern. "She sounds bitter but convincing. People might believe her." "Let them," Charles said. "The truth will prevail. I'm not going to engage in a public fight with her." Diana looked relieved. "Thank you. The girls don't need that kind of ugliness in their lives." The next morning, moving trucks arrived at the beach house. As their belongings were loaded, Charles received another call from Marcus. "Sir, there's someone here to see you. Peter Walker, Victoria's former investigator. He says it's important." "Put him on," Charles instructed. "Mr. Montgomery," Peter's voice came through the phone. "Ms. Blackwood is planning something. She accessed some of my files before I quit working for her. Information about Diana's past, the girl's birth records. I'm concerned about what she might do with it." "Thank you for the warning," Charles said gravely. "Would you be willing to make a statement if necessary?" "About the threats Victoria made?" "Yes, sir," Peter replied firmly. "What she's doing isn't right." After ending the call, Charles found Diana supervising the packing of the girls' toys. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "Victoria might try to cause more problems." Diana straightened, her face resolute. "Then we'll face them together." For the girls. By that evening, they were settled in the Brentwood house. The girls were exploring their new rooms, arranging their belongings, and planning decorations. "This feels more real now," Diana said as she and Charles stood in the kitchen unpacking dishes. "Like we're really doing this." Charles nodded. A fresh start for all of us. As they worked side by side, Charles realized how comfortable he felt with Diana. Not the spark of romance, but something perhaps more valuable: mutual respect and a shared purpose in raising their daughters. "Thank you," he said suddenly. "For what?" Diana asked. "For giving me a chance to be their father. For not shutting me out after everything that happened." Diana smiled softly. "They deserve to know you, and you deserve to know them." From upstairs came the sound of laughter as the triplets discovered something amusing. Diana and Charles both paused to listen, sharing a moment of simple parental joy in the sound of their children's happiness. Outside the house, security guards patrolled discreetly, keeping watch for unwanted visitors or photographers. Inside, a family was forming, unconventional, complicated, but real. 6 months later, the Brentwood house truly felt like home. Spring sunshine filtered through the kitchen windows as Diana prepared breakfast. The aroma of pancakes filled the air while 3 identical lunchboxes sat ready on the counter, each with small personalized touches. A science sticker for Zoe, an art design for Zoe, and a soccer ball keychain for Zara. The sound of footsteps thundered down the stairs as the triplets raced into the kitchen, now comfortable in the space that had once seemed overwhelmingly large to them. "Morning, Mom!" they called in near unison, each grabbing their designated seat at the table. "Is Dad coming for breakfast?" Zoe asked, reaching for the orange juice. Diana nodded. "He should be here any minute. He's driving you all to school today, remember?" As if on cue, they heard the front door open and Charles called out, "Good morning, Montgomerys." The girls scrambled from their chairs to greet him. Even Zara, once so hesitant to accept Charles, now rushed to hug him. Charles entered the kitchen carrying a small bakery box. "I brought special treats for after school. Today is an important day." "Parent-teacher conferences," Zoe said with a hint of worry. "Do you think my art teacher will show you my painting?" "I'm sure she will," Charles reassured her, accepting a cup of coffee from Diana. "How did you sleep?" "Fine," Diana replied, "though I was up late finalizing the business plan." Charles smiled with genuine pride. "The bank would be crazy not to approve your loan. Your concept is solid." After years of working for others, Diana had developed a plan for her own business, a specialized cleaning service for elderly clients that included companionship and basic assistance. Charles had offered to fund it entirely, but Diana insisted on only accepting his help with the business plan and applying for a proper small business loan. "Eat quickly, girls," Diana reminded them. "You don't want to be late." As the triplets finished breakfast, Charles helped clear the dishes, something that would have been unimaginable in his previous life. His phone buzzed with messages from the office, but he ignored them until the morning routine was complete. Later that morning, Charles and Diana sat side by side in Miss Peterson's classroom for Zoe's conference. "Zoe's aptitude for science and mathematics is truly extraordinary," the teacher explained, showing them test scores well above grade level. "Her coding projects are more advanced than some middle school students I've seen." Charles beamed with pride. "She's been working with me on some simple programming. We're exploring advanced placement options for next year," Miss Peterson continued. "With proper guidance, Zoe could really excel." Similar conferences followed for Zoe and Zara. Zoe's art teacher displayed her recent work, praising her creativity and attention to detail. Zara's physical education teacher discussed her leadership abilities on the soccer field. Between conferences, as they walked the school hallways, Charles marveled at how ordinary and yet extraordinary this day felt. "I never imagined myself doing this," he admitted to Diana. "Parent-teacher conferences, school drop-offs, bedtime stories." "You've adapted well," Diana said. "The girls adore their Sunday museum trips with you." This had become their routine. Charles took Zoe to art museums every Sunday morning, just the two of them exploring galleries and discussing the artwork at a 9-year-old's level. "My assistant scheduled a board meeting for this Saturday," Charles mentioned. "I told him to reschedule. Zara has a soccer game." Diana smiled. The great Charles Montgomery, rearranging the business world for a children's soccer game. It's her first game as team captain, Charles said seriously. I wouldn't miss it. That afternoon, Diana drove across town to the bank. Her loan application interview had taken weeks to arrange, and she was determined to secure funding on her own merits. As she presented her business plan, she felt a confidence she hadn't possessed 6 months ago. Learning to stand her ground with Charles had strengthened her ability to advocate for herself in other areas too. Your proposal is very impressive, Ms. Johnson, the loan officer said. We'll have an answer for you within a week. Meanwhile, across the city, Charles presided over a meeting at Montgomery Tech headquarters. The company had recovered from the initial stock fluctuations after his family revelation, and operations had adjusted to his new schedule. The European expansion is proceeding on schedule, his CFO reported, though they've requested your presence for the Milan opening next month. I'll attend virtually, Charles responded immediately. The trip conflicts with the girl's birthday. His executive team no longer questioned such decisions. They had adapted to their CEO's new priorities, and the company continued to thrive despite his reduced hours. After the meeting, Charles called his event planner. I want to confirm arrangements for the foundation announcement next week. 6 months earlier, Charles had begun developing the Montgomery Family Foundation for single parents. Inspired by Diana's strength in raising the triplets alone, he had created an organization to support other single parents with education, childcare, and housing assistance. Everything is arranged, Mr. Montgomery, the planner assured him. The press release goes out tomorrow. That evening, the family gathered for dinner at the Brentwood house. Charles, who now stayed 3 nights a week in the downstairs master suite, had prepared a simple meal of pasta and salad. I heard from Mrs. Rodriguez today, Diana told the girls as they ate. She sends her love and will visit next weekend. I miss her cookies, Zoe said. Speaking of visitors, Charles said, I got a postcard from Aunt Elaine in London. She ran into Victoria at a gallery opening. The girls exchanged glances. Victoria Blackwood had eventually moved to London, effectively banished from Los Angeles social circles after her behavior became widely known. Was Victoria nice to Aunt Elaine? Zara asked cautiously. Apparently, she was perfectly polite, Charles replied. She's dating a British businessman now. Later, after the triplets were in bed, Charles and Diana sat in the living room with glasses of wine, reviewing plans for the girls' upcoming birthday. I can't believe they'll be 9 already, Diana said. It feels like yesterday they were tiny babies. I wish I'd known them then, Charles said with a hint of sadness. Diana touched his hand briefly. You're here now. That's what matters. Charles nodded. I've been thinking about the party. Would it be all right if we kept it simple? Just family and close friends in the backyard? I know we could rent out an entire amusement park if they wanted, but that's not what they need, Diana finished. I agree completely. I've never planned a children's birthday before, Charles admitted. I want it to be special. It will be special because you're there, Diana assured him. Their first birthday with their father present. The day of the triplets' 9th birthday dawned bright and clear. Charles arrived early, arms loaded with carefully wrapped gifts. The backyard had been transformed with balloons and decorations, a cake table, and a small bouncy house, a compromise between Charles's inclination toward extravagance and Diana's preference for simplicity. 30 guests attended, classmates, neighbors, and a few of Charles's close friends who had embraced his newfound family. The girls wore matching dresses in different colors, their star necklaces from Charles glinting in the sunlight. As Diana brought out the birthday cake with 9 candles, she found herself blinking back tears. Across the table, Charles caught her eye and nodded in understanding. They had come so far from that moment in the kitchen when he had first seen his daughters. Later, as the party wound down, Charles pulled Diana aside. I have something to show you, he said, leading her to his car. He opened the trunk to reveal 3 identical bicycles. Diana laughed. You really can't help yourself with the grand gestures, can you? Every 9-year-old should have a bike, Charles insisted. Besides, I cleared it with you last week. I know, Diana admitted, and they'll love them. As Charles arranged the bicycles on the front lawn, Diana watched him. This man who had transformed from distant billionaire to hands-on father, who had rearranged his entire life to make room for 3 little girls. After the last guest departed, the family gathered in the living room to open family gifts. Each girl unwrapped books, clothes, and special items chosen specifically for their interests. Charles had clearly done his research, selecting gifts that showed his understanding of each daughter's personality. "One last surprise," Charles announced. "How would you all feel about a family vacation to Yellowstone National Park this summer?" "The place with the big water thing that shoots up?" Zoe asked excitedly. "Old Faithful," Charles confirmed, "plus wildlife, hiking trails, and amazing landscapes to inspire Zoe's artwork." "Will we stay in a fancy hotel?" Zara asked. Charles shook his head. "Even better. I rented a cabin. We'll cook our own meals, sit around a campfire, and explore nature together." The girls exchanged surprised glances. They had expected luxury resorts, not rustic cabins. "That sounds awesome," Zoe declared, and her sisters nodded in agreement. Later that night, after the girls were in bed, Charles lingered in the living room looking at a new family portrait they had taken the previous week. The professional photograph showed Charles and Diana standing behind the 3 girls, all 5 smiling naturally. "Not a conventional family," Diana observed, joining him. "No," Charles agreed, "but it works for us." As Charles prepared to leave for his own nearby home, Zara appeared at the top of the stairs in her pajamas. "Dad?" she called softly. "I forgot to say something." Charles paused at the door. "What is it, sweetheart?" Zara descended the stairs and hugged him tightly. "Thanks for my birthday present. And thanks for finding us." Charles held his daughter close, his voice thick with emotion. "Best discovery I ever made." When Zara returned to bed, Diana walked Charles to the door. "She called you Dad without hesitating," Diana noted. "That's new." Charles nodded, clearly moved. "6 months ago I had everything money could buy. Now I have something money can't buy." "A family," Diana said simply. "A family," Charles repeated. "Good night, Diana." As Charles drove home through the quiet Brentwood streets, he reflected on the journey of the past 6 months. His life had been completely reorganized around 3 little girls with his blue eyes. His definition of success had fundamentally changed. For the first time in his life, Charles Montgomery felt truly rich. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.